So I talked about kind of knowledge and practical use as part of collective engineering. And the first piece of knowledge we're going to be talking about is there are only 3 reasons that work does not get done. There's only 3 reasons. And in order to motivate this, I want to talk about pure teamwork. I want to talk about an exercise that I love doing with groups of people that I talk to. And what it does is create a pure team very quickly. You can create a team in 2 minutes. You know, people have their books and reams of things written on creating a team. And you know what? You get into a room. If you ever come to one of my programs, you'll be part of a team within 2 minutes of starting the program. It's that straightforward. And part of what we do is put a puzzle together. We put a team of 4 people on a 48-piece puzzle. It takes about 10 minutes to do this kind of work. You know, it's not a trivial problem to solve, but it doesn't take hours and hours. So you have this little piece of work that you do. I'd like to think for a moment about putting a jigsaw puzzle together. What's involved in putting the puzzle together? And what we'll be talking about here are what I call the 3 pillars. So these are the things that hold up all of teamwork. And I like to use the puzzle exercise because that really shows teamwork in its purest form. Right? You get a bunch of people together, they're putting the puzzle together. And that is, and it's teamwork. People are excited and moving forward, and they know the goal, and so it's really a very pure way of thinking about this. So let's talk about the first piece. Let's talk about the first pillar. The first pillar is vision. So where does the vision come from when you're putting a puzzle together? And you know, it's interesting with these puzzles that we use. There is a picture of the puzzle in it, but a lot of teams don't notice that there's a picture of the puzzle. They just put the puzzle together anyway. So there's this kind of societal idea of what a puzzle should look like, right? This idea of puzzleness, that you have pieces and the pieces will fit together. And so that's kind of the way that people know about this. And the end game is very clear, right? It's very, very clear. The puzzle is done when all the pieces are in place and you've got the full picture. And so there's not really a lot to wonder about. People kind of pitch in and start going. And so as you're on this call or listening to this in the recordings, I want to ask you to take a minute and think about how clear what you're doing is for both yourself and the people that you work with. Is it as clear, is the final product, is the final goal as clear as that every piece is going to be in place the correct way? So I'm just going to give you 20 seconds or so to just think about that. Think about where the vision is in your work right now. Great. And the last thing I want to say about vision is that everybody has a vision. Actually, the challenge I find in leadership work that I do is communicating the vision that is the key point. I've worked with a lot of people who say, no, I just want this person to do this sort of thing. And I'll say, you know, it seems like a dumb question, but have you told them that? And people look at me and say, you know what, that is a stupid question, but no, I haven't, right? I've never actually said it to them. And so it's really important, you know, we kind of come up with ideas in our head and work things over in our head and feel like everyone should know that. It's really important to know that having the vision isn't the key. It's communicating the vision very clearly to people so that it's as clear as what a finished puzzle looks like, right? That's really what we're going for, is to put together this vision that we can then communicate to people. So the first pillar is vision. The second pillar is motivation. And I love going around, what motivates people to put a puzzle together? So just think for a moment, what motivates you to put a puzzle together? And maybe you're motivated by the challenge. Maybe you're motivated by the competitiveness, you know, trying to do it faster than anyone else or faster than you've ever done it before. Maybe you're wondering why you're putting a puzzle together and what you're going to learn out of it, right? If you go around the room for the puzzle, you know, some people like being part of a team, some people like the challenge, some people like the aesthetic of the puzzle. There's all sorts of reasons people use for putting the puzzle together. And the interesting thing is that on a particular team, many different people will have many different ideas about what they were motivated about. And so when we talk about vision, the real key about vision is communicating that vision. When we talk about motivation, the real key is realizing that everyone has a different motivation. And your job as the leader, your job as the person giving out the work, is to motivate people according to the way they like to be motivated. I have one person who works for me who's actually not really motivated by money. I mean, he wants to be making the money. He's got a sense of how much money he should make. But when you get down to it at the end of the day, he really wants to be running a great business. Like that's what he wants to be doing. It's giving him more money is nice to the extent that it comes from running a great business. but he really wants to be the best manager guy out there. And so it's important to understand that. And for me, I mean, for myself, it's interesting that if you put me in direct competition with people, I kind of shut down. I hate that kind of, you're competing with him, go. I hate that. But if I'm competing with myself, or if I'm learning a new skill, or if I'm trying to do something better than I've done it before, nothing can get in my way. I'm super motivated by that. So if you were managing me, you would definitely want to play up the aspect of how I'm getting better than I was before, right, rather than how I'm competing against other people. And so as a leader, it's just important. It's important to understand your motivation, kind of what is the kind of critical thing that motivates you, and then to be very aware of what other people are motivated by. And if you're wondering how to figure out what motivates people, there are a couple of other programs in this series that talk a little bit more about motivation, how to motivate your employees and what motivation is all about, and how to figure out what actually motivates them. There are a couple of very, very straightforward techniques in the Motivate Your Employees program in our archive. So those are the first two pillars. So things fall apart because of vision, the lack of vision. Things fall apart, lack of communication of vision. Things fall apart because of motivation, because people aren't motivated because motivation kind of lags. The third pillar is learning. And the story I like to tell about learning is I was recently training a saleswoman for one of my businesses, and we were walking down the street doing estimates and bids, and I had to take a phone call, so I stepped away from her. And while I had stepped away, she got a request for an estimate and submitted a bid, and I came back, and she had miscounted she had miscounted the glass, she had miscounted what we were counting up. And I said, wow, congratulations, you made the first mistake. I said, you submitted the bid, and I like your initiative, but you counted the glass wrong, and so we went back over how to count the glass. And then, we continued with our day, and later on in the day, same kind of thing, I stepped away to take a call, and she submitted a bid while I was gone. And in this case, she had counted the glass correctly, but she had forgotten to add put the multiplier in to get from the count to the price. There's this multiplier you use to get from the count to the price. She had forgotten that. I said, congratulations. Second mistake. I said, wonderful. You got the first thing. The first mistake you made was different, right? So this mistake, you did that correctly, and now you just forgot the multiplier. And so we continued on with the day, and as we were driving back, I said, you had a good day. I said, you made two mistakes, you had two good mistakes, and you moved them forward, and that's good. And I'll never forget, we got back to the office, and she came up to my desk, and she said, remind me again what the two mistakes I made were and why that was a good thing. And I mean, when you think about the puzzle, right? What sorts of mistakes do people make when they're putting a puzzle together? Put the puzzle piece in wrong. The piece doesn't fit. You need an edge piece. You can't find the piece you want. There are a bunch of different kind of problems, and none of them are traumatic, right? Nobody's yelling at each other. You just look. You put something in, doesn't fit. You look for something else that will fit. And this is really what we talk about with leadership when we talk about the learning aspect of things. That you want to create the boundaries for where it's okay to learn, right? We talk about catastrophic failure in the puzzle case has to do with setting the pieces on fire or chewing on a piece or cutting pieces up into smaller pieces, right? Those are kind of catastrophic failures, and so we can't do any of that. But anything short of that is really fine. And in this example of the saleswoman, she made a couple of non-catastrophic mistakes, and I just view them as learning opportunities, right? It's an opportunity for me to see how our training is going, right? We had trained her pretty well, but first of all, she didn't really know how to count the glass yet, right? She was pretty good at it, but she didn't quite have it yet. And you know what? A lot of people, it takes a little while to learn these things, right? Think about something that you've learned. It can take more than one try to get it. And so that's really what the learning piece is about. The learning is about putting that in creating that kind of environment where people can experiment. And I can hear people saying, well, what does this have to do with vacation? Why are we talking about these three reasons in terms of vacation? And what happens when you go on vacation is you go on vacation and things don't get done, right? You come back to the office. If you haven't been through my program, you come back to the office and things aren't quite right. Some things have fallen through the cracks. There's some decisions that haven't been made. Some things are waiting. There's just stuff you need to kind of fix. And all of that stuff that didn't happen, all the things that went wrong while you were gone, were based on one of these three things. It was either a vision problem, a motivation problem, or a learning problem. And if you actually have any of these things in mind, you can feel free to send them over the chat box. You can take a look at which pieces they were. So if you have any ideas, go ahead. If you have any questions about this, send them in. But once you know where the problem is, once you know which one of these reasons is the reason, then you can apply a bunch of strategies. And there are a couple of strategies you can apply to more clearly communicate the vision. make sure people are motivated, to make sure people are learning the right kind of thing in the right kind of environment. So that's really how we work with this, and that's really what this has to do with it. When we talk about collective engineering, there are only 3 reasons that work doesn't get done. And so when you're faced with work not getting done, instead of being frustrated or angry or feeling like it's too difficult, we think about which of these things caused it, and then you have a bunch of strategies you can apply to take the next step, right, to move things forward so that things will work more correctly. And once, I mean, you know, I have a business, in my fish window cleaning business, about 12 people working there. I don't spend much time there, but I've built that up over years, right? And again, I don't feel like it should necessarily take years, but it takes time to build that kind of trust. You know, the guy who's been working with me for 5 years, I trust him to do things, and he trusts me, you know, and he trusts me that I trust him to do it. And so we've built up that kind of relationship. And that's really what we're talking about when we talk about delegating, we talk about stress-free vacations.